Death is a natural part of life, my love. I wish only to be prepared for when my time comes.
Faye, mother of Atreus and Kratos' second wife. The latest God of War games completely circle around her. The first game was about spreading her ashes from the highest peak in all the realms in Jotunheim. Faye, or Faye, is mentioned a few times in Norse mythology. She's introduced as Loki's mother and has two other children named Helbindi and Bylista. However, in God of War, she is the loving mother to Atreus, a son she had with Kratos. The Spartan had left his homeland of Greece and come to these new lands to escape his past and live the rest of his days quietly in a forest. Having a history of pure rage and god-killing had taken its mental toll, and our warrior was ready to retire. This is when he would run into Faye. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Who is Faye? Faye was a stunning, tall, curvy woman with brilliant light raspberry blonde hair that flowed down her back in a few braids, deep blue eyes, and a pale, flawless complexion. She sported modest brown boots and a yellow dress. She is a giant by race, but as we've come to know from the game's lore, not all giants are actually giant in size. She was the same stature as the rest of us. In Ragnarok, we get some insight as to how they met. We see in a cut scene where Kratos is rowing a boat with Faye in it, holding their son in her arms. There, while talking to the child, she mentioned that the first time she met Kratos, they almost killed each other. First off, this statement says a lot because it means that Faye is apparently equal to Kratos in battle. This would mean that she has a history of fighting and quite a bit of experience as well. However, and more importantly, it gives us an idea as to how they may have fallen in love in the first place. It is possible that she ran away from her past to settle in the woods as well. The fact that they had similar past experiences probably allowed them to connect to some degree. This is further stressed in the game when she says that we are not defined by our mistakes and that we must be better. This and more details about her past life are discovered in God of War Ragnarok. While it is true that we never get to see Faye in person in the first game, we do get deep insights into her personality through interactions with the characters. I'm sure we all think that if Kratos was ever left to raise a child after everything he has been through right from the beginning, then we would end up with a small Spartan soldier. However, we know that Atreus is funny, warm-hearted, kind and gentle. He did not share his father's military mindset either. There is a carefree innocence in him. There's definitely a fierce love for Faye from both husband and son. However, these two would often have clashes. Kratos would get angry if Atreus ever blamed his mother for something or said anything bad about her. Atreus would accuse Kratos of not caring for or mourning her loss. Even the blacksmith brothers, who helped Kratos and Atreus along his journey by keeping them equipped, like Faye a lot. Sindri especially thought very highly of her and really took a hit when he found out that she had passed away. Brock and Sindri were the ones to forge the Leviathan axe for her as well, the same axe that passed on to Kratos and was the first weapon he used in God of War. Sindri described Faye as helpful and gentle, always looking out for those in need or who couldn't fend for themselves. If we take a look at the previous games, we know that Kratos is very one-track minded and cares for no one but himself and a chosen few. Faye would go out of her way to help a stranger, while Kratos would probably just ignore them. So we can tell that Atreus inherited much of his mother's personality. Throughout both the games, we often hear of Faye from Kratos when either Atreus or Mimir brings her up. Faye was also quite mistrusting of the gods. While we all know full well Kratos' reason to hate gods, through Ragnarok we find out hers. In Vanaheim, for example, Faye had apparently gotten into a fight with a very drunk Thor. This fight then went on to cause quite a bit of damage. The way we find this out is also quite cool, and credit to the developers for this one. Once you enter a clearing in Vanaheim, you can see an enormous thunderbolt that is frozen sticking out from the sky and hitting the ground somewhere. This is quite strange because the only other time we've seen something like this is in Midgard, where Kratos had a fight with Thor. After doing a bunch of side quests that let you come closer, you realize that it was Faye and her use of the Leviathan axe that caused this. We should also know that since Faye was a giant, she had visions of prophecy and a good understanding of giant magic. Talking about her visions, we know that she had foreseen the entire journey that Kratos and Atreus would go on to spread her ashes in Jotunheim. There were murals apparently painted many years ago, depicting the two at different points of their adventure. That isn't where prophecy ends though. In Ragnarok, when we see that Atreus has gone on these mini adventures looking for Tyr, the Norse god of war, he finds many murals painted in different temples in tribute to Tyr. These murals depict parts of their journey in Ragnarok. However, we make this connection because the murals on their own show no such context. The extra interesting bit is that Atreus could touch the mural and they would be transported into a dimension between dimensions where they would see more of Groa's prophecies regarding Ragnarok. In many of these prophecy showings, we see Atreus and Kratos taking an active part in what is to come. Over the course of Ragnarok, we also find out that future seeing and prophecies are a thing giants are known for. Giant magic also included soul magic. Since Faye's child Atreus is half giant, he also learned some giant magic on his own. Faye was very much on a whole other level though. She managed to place a ward around their home in Midgard that was so strong that none of the Aesir gods could enter. Even Freya and Odin were kept outside of it. Also, it wouldn't be very outlandish of us to assume that she used magic in combat as well.
Oh, there do I see my mother. Oh, there do I see my father.
How did Faye die? Now, as much as we do get several glimpses into her life and what she has done in her past, we still don't really know what brought about her death. Throughout God of War, we only hear about what kind of a mother and wife she was. We get very little information about her past life. In fact, in God of War Ragnarok is the first time we get to see her face and hear her voice. She makes a few appearances in the second game. Each of these appearances happens to be in Kratos' dreams though. The first dream was of when Faye and Kratos went hunting together. Here we see Faye showing her true kind and caring nature as she looks for a wolf that is killing the game wildly. She regrets not taking action sooner to prevent these deaths. Kratos, on the other hand, simply said that this is the nature of things, so it doesn't matter to him. They get into a small conflict about going out of her way to help others when she can. Her idea is that the strong should defend and help the weak. Kratos was clearly raised differently, so they didn't see eye to eye on this one. The second dream was the one with baby Atreus in Faye's arms. Kratos is rowing the boat towards their home perhaps, and only responds to Faye with grunts. When Faye asks him if the all-powerful Kratos is afraid of his own son, he replies that he does not fear him, but fears for him. He calls him innocent. Here we can say that maybe Kratos doesn't think he can be a good father, or if he even deserves to be a father, again considering what happened with his last family long ago. To this, Faye tells him quite sternly that they have the option to learn from the mistakes they have made in the past, and it is that willingness to change and be better that defines who you are instead. The last time we see Faye in Kratos' dreams is when they both go around the forest marking the trees that she wants to use for her funeral pyre. This is a very sentimental scene for Kratos and Faye both. Even in the last few days before she died, she tries to unite father and son in any way that she can. There is a bit of lore to back this up, but again, take it with a grain of salt because nothing is really confirmed. There have been novels written that talk about Kratos and Atreus' life before Faye died. Usually, Faye would be the one who takes care of everything at the house, cooks food, hunts, etc. Usually, it would be Kratos who was gone for days and weeks on end. However, in the weeks leading up to her death, it was Faye who would be gone for weeks. Kratos would be the one to take care of the house and do all the chores. All of this is written from Atreus' perspective. The few times she would be home, her mannerisms were off. For example, she would always tell stories by the fireplace and Atreus would listen intently. Recently, however, her voice grew tired and Atreus would fall asleep. Her flushed cheeks had grown pale and at times Atreus would use his mind to see what she was feeling. She felt sad, so very sad. Faye would notice this and begin telling him a story to take his mind off of it. There are theories about where Faye went when she would leave their home in the forest. It's possible that Faye had gone to make the necessary arrangements so that Kratos and Atreus could go on their adventure as planned. Considering that every step of their journey was written beforehand and foreseen by her, it is impossible that she was working to make it a reality. Another theory that is maybe a little less probable, but not entirely unlikely, is that Faye was taking trips to fight a different Ragnarok in the future, to perhaps try and keep Kratos and Atreus out of it. This would explain the giant bodies that littered the hills and plains of Jotunheim back in the first game. When you reach the top of the highest peak there, you can see giant bodies that are clad in armor and holding on to their weapons still. It looked like a great battle had taken place here. However, this theory doesn't make complete sense, because if she was trying to stop or end Ragnarok to keep her family out of it, then why would she teach Kratos to fight for others, or even give that speech about grieving and loving fully? Don't get me wrong, that dialogue between Faye and Kratos made me shed a few tears, but I just don't see how that thought process would lead to fighting a war in secret from the people you want to protect, and then send them on their way to that same war after she died. Just doesn't make much sense to me. Yet, another theory has a bit to do with Ragnarok. It is thought that perhaps during her travels away from home, she went to Svartalfheim to lead the Dwarven rebellion against Odin. We know that this actually happened in the past. However, we don't know if this happened in the weeks before her demise or before she even ever met Kratos. So, there are certain theories that make sense. However, at the end of the day, there simply isn't enough evidence to give us a single correct answer. Pretty much all we can do at the moment is speculate until maybe some more lore comes out in the future, unlikely as it may be. So, while Faye was a loving and caring wife to her husband Kratos and an extremely gentle and nurturing mother to Atreus, we don't really find out all that much about her. Faye was a character who was loved by all she met and inspired by so many more that she didn't. She was loved and rightfully feared for her might and fury as well. Her relationship with Kratos and Atreus is a beautiful story and just the kind of thing that makes God of War Ragnarok a masterpiece. The storytelling and character development reminded me a lot about The Last of Us. They just really got you into it and you start rooting for the characters. Video games are just a fantastic way of telling stories. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and hope to see you in the next one. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.